This is Beat the Closing Line.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Beat the Closing Line. My name is Nicole Russo and I am your host alongside resident NFL analyst for thelines.com, Eli Hershkovich, who is filming live out of Circa Sports, which is why you can see the insane stadium swim background right behind him. Eli, how is Vegas treating you?
It's treating me well because we're doing this video on a Thursday season opener with the Rams and the Bills. I didn't drink a lot last night, so I'm sober enough to do the podcast.
We actually traded spaces a little bit. I'm in Arizona in not so nice of a hotel room, and you got to come to my hometown in Vegas. But I am excited for you. It seems like it is quite a fun time. And we are here with a very special guest. We are going to be talking sports betting with Jeff Benson, who is the Sportsbook Operations Manager for Circa Sports. Jeff, thanks for joining us today. How are you guys preparing for the NFL season? I'm sure it's a busy day for you today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's been a long summer. Obviously, people are kind of tired of the grind of baseball and certainly looking forward to NFL opening night today. So certainly seeing a lot of buzz here in the books the last couple weeks, particularly for us as we lead up to the contest sign-up deadline. Having a lot of people making the trek out, staying here at Circa Las Vegas, getting signed up for the contest and enjoying stadium swim and the sports book as we head into what we think is going to be a fantastic NFL season.
Awesome, and we are definitely going to touch on that contest in just a little bit. But before we get into our series of questions, make sure that, of course, you like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for a chance to win an Amazon gift card. And, of course, make sure to subscribe to the Beat the Closing Line podcast on Spotify and any other podcast platforms. Are you guys ready to get into the questions for today?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, so Jeff, as promised, I said we were going to get back into the Circa contest talk. So there are the Circa Millions and the Circa Survivor contest, and they are running for the 2022 NFL season, and there is still time for people to sign up. Can you talk a little bit about the guarantees for those contests and how much they've grown over the years?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, this is year 4 of the Circa Million and then the 3rd year of Circa Survivor. Our CEO and owner, Derek Stevens, he does a fantastic job in terms of, putting on 2 of these contests, guaranteeing $6 million in each contest, and ultimately they're no-rate contests. So, what that means for the listener is 100% of the money that goes into the prize pool is getting paid back out. So for us, it's really a labor of love. It's really about getting people in the door, seeing what we're doing here at Circa Sports, getting people to stadium swim on property and things like that. So for us it's really, really exciting. We think it's the 2 best contests in the world, and obviously the growth that we've had from year 1 in 2019 to really where we're at now has been really unparalleled. When you look at the first year, we guaranteed $1.5 million in the Circa Million. That's all the way up to $6 million now. And then obviously year 1 of Survivor, we guaranteed $1 million as well, and that's up to $6 million as now. So certainly exponential growth in both contests. As we stand today, before I was coming over here, I looked, we were at roughly 5,100 entries in Survivor, so still 900 short to meet that $6 million guarantee. And then we were at roughly 3,800 entries in the Circa Million. So my guess is we'll close, probably somewhere between, 4,200, 4,500 entries in the Circa Million, leaving a $1.5 million overlay for players. And what that means is basically we're guaranteeing $6 million. If we only get 4,500 entrants into the contest, Derek's footing that bill for the extra 1.5 million. So certainly a very plus EV opportunity for players. Probably going to be one of the largest contest overlays in football contest history, and certainly something obviously that we'd recommend any football anybody who bets football or likes to play in contests to come out, register, and get in before the Saturday, September 10th deadline at 2 p.m.
As long as that extra cash, Jeff, isn't coming out of your wallet, then that's the most important thing. But with the Survivor contest in particular, and talking about strategies, the novice Survivor participant is going to be looking at a team like the Ravens, a 7-point favorite, the Colts around the same spread. What's a good strategy to kind of maybe look back and look ahead into the season and go kind of backwards from that approach, or how would you recommend, again, someone who's doing their first Survivor contest to go about it?
Yeah, I would say really two things. The first being that, map out the season. Look at a Survivor grid, a Survivor chart, look at future values of teams. And I think, a lot of times people are making the mistake of just going in and thinking about, I just need to survive this week and advance to the next week. But I think by doing that, you're limiting yourself opportunities to use teams in certain spots. And as you get deeper into the year, you put yourself in worse off positions. So I think, maybe being a little bit contrarian, and then, that speaks to my other point. I think it's very similar to DFS in the sense that you really need to know ownership. And when I say ownership, I think you need to look at the pool and you need to think about, what other people are going to be doing. And, if 90% of the people in the pool are going to be taking one team, being a little bit contrarian, not necessarily going against that team, but maybe taking a team that's a little bit further down the board that's not as heavily played. Because in a contest like this, you're not going against 50 people, 100 people. You're going against 6,000 plus people. And to win this, you're going to have to be doing some things that maybe aren't the most conventional. So I would say really planning for the entirety of the year, working your way back from, week 18 to the first week, thinking about those holiday weeks, the Christmas and Thanksgiving wrinkles that we've added into the contest, and then thinking about the ownership in terms of what the pool is going to select as their top picks each and every week. And I think if you can go into the contest thinking about some of those things, ultimately, I think it'll put you in a better position at the end of the year to have a chance for that $6 million plus prize than if you went in and you did some things maybe from a more conventional perspective.
And speaking of some of the popular teams, we're going to shift focus a little bit and talk about some Super Bowl futures. So right now you have the Bills. They're at the top of the odds boards with plus 550, followed by the Chiefs at plus 700, and then the Bucks and Packers at plus 1,000. Can you give us some information or give us a little bit of insight on some of the big Super Bowl bets at Circa Sports that have stood out to you in the recent weeks?
Yeah, I mean, for us, early in the off season, and kind of leading up to the start of the season, obviously we've taken quite a bit of Raider money, being that they're now here, located in Las Vegas. That's certainly something that's not surprising for us. Very similar to what we saw with the Golden Knights. So we have some liability on the Raiders. The Steelers, we took some bets during the summer. Kind of leading up to the draft and things like that, there was some talk that they were going to go out and acquire a veteran quarterback. Obviously, that didn't materialize. It looks like Mitch Trubisky's going to be starting.
Good luck.
Don't be too excited about it, Jeff.
But we've certainly taken quite a. Yeah, I'm not a Mitch Trubisky truther. Maybe we'll see Kenny Pickett here at some point, but certainly the bettors really like the Steelers up to this point. But I would say the biggest liability we have going into the season is the Kansas City Chiefs. We took a big bet on them at 10-1, which caused us to move our odds down to 7-1. So I would say those three teams, the Chiefs, Steelers, and Raiders, are the three biggest liabilities here at Circa Sports in terms of Super Bowl futures going into the season.
I'm assuming all those Steelers bets came from Nicole, nobody else. Just big money from the Pittsburgh Steelers fan on the show. But Jeff, pretty much at every other sports book, the Chiefs are around 1,000, so plus 1,000, so 10-1. Obviously, you said you guys got some money on Kansas City, so therefore you had to drop the price down. Is that a team you're looking at, maybe for yourself as a valuable play, or are you looking elsewhere?
Yeah, they had there was some 12-1 out here in town that piqued my interest a little bit earlier this summer, and I think 10-1 still a pretty good bet. I think a lot of people are making too much out of the Tyreek Hill to Miami news. I think they were, based on what the defenses were doing in terms of playing Pat Mahomes last year, it was a lot of dink and dunk. It was a lot of short passes, which were an extension of the run game. And I think they were able to really fill a lot of his production, or are going to be able to fill a lot of his production With the signing of Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdez-Scantling can take it, over the top and be their deep threat. And obviously they went and drafted Sky Moore, and then, Nicole Hardeman's still there. So I think what they have from a receiver perspective, is still good enough to get it done. When you have Pat Mahomes, who I believe is still the best quarterback in football behind center. So, when you look at that, and then obviously you look at their schedule, they have a very difficult schedule, particularly right out of the gate. I think those are maybe two things that have dragged the Chiefs down in terms of the odds boards. And I think when you look at them versus, the Buffalo Bills, for me, I'd rate both of them, very similar on a neutral. And so having the Chiefs, kind of close to being, double what the Bills are in terms of the future odds, to me, I just, don't really buy that argument. I think, the Chiefs are still one of the best teams in football and should be priced close to, if not being the Super Bowl favorite, in my opinion.
And then just talking about futures still, but kind of switching gears here and maybe panning over to our novice bettors just a little bit. When we're talking about Super Bowl futures or futures markets in general, they're going to hear the term hold quite a bit. So for our beginner bettors out there, can you explain this term a little bit more and talk about why it is so important to understand it when it comes to these futures markets?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of times when you talk about theoretical hold, it's important for people who are price shopping. Basically, when you look at theoretical hold and you look at one book's Super Bowl future pool and it's at 30%, and you look at another book, conversely, like Circa Sports, and our future book is at 15%, that's going to be a very big price discrepancy for the customer. And what that means typically is for every $100 that are bet, theoretically, when you're betting into a pool with a 30% hold, the book is expected to hold $30 for every 100 that's bet. Whereas if you're betting at a book with a 15% theoretical hold, the book is expected to hold 15% on every 100 that's bet. Ultimately, what that means for the listener is you're going to get much, much better prices at any book that has a lower theoretical hold. So for the consumer, they want to be looking at any future books, that are being fair in terms of the theoretical hold offered to players. And when you're looking at, books like Circa Sports, I think you're going to see that our futures are very, very good. They're priced very well. And, more often than not, you're going to find a lot of value in our numbers just because we're not, taking out as much hold as some of these other books.
Well, there was one college basketball future that I didn't like the price on that I was looking to bet when I came over here, so might have to do a little bit more shopping around. You guys are sharp, obviously, Matt Metcalf, making those college numbers. But shifting back to the futures market and some of the bigger numbers that you guys do have, looking at the conference futures to win the NFC, to win the AFC, and then kind of contextualizing that a little bit between it may not be a sharp bet, but because it's such a big number, then therefore it's a big liability if a bettor's taking a look at some of the bigger prices in the respective conferences.
Yeah, 100%. We've seen, for reasons I won't ever understand, we've seen quite a bit of interest in both the Texans and the Seahawks, particularly at long odds. Obviously, when you get a lot of bets, even if they're small bets, particularly at long odds, obviously that liability can stack up like you alluded to. So, we've shortened, both the Seahawks and Texans. I don't think much of either team, obviously, with Davis Mills and Geno Smith, behind center for both teams. But obviously the bettors, like to come in, like to put down a small wager on something that's going to ultimately win a lot in the long run. And that's certainly what we've seen leading up to week one here, with teams backing both the Seahawks and the Texans in the conference future market here at Circa Sports.
And then outside of the conference futures market, what sticks out to you for liability in maybe some of the other markets like NFL MVP or Coach of the Year or Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, when you look at the MVP pool, Devontae Adams, he was traded in the offseason from the Packers to the Raiders, obviously with a ton of Raider love being that, we're in Las Vegas and, they play in this city. Bettors have really flocked to betting him to be the MVP. Another, kind of buzz has been Trey Lance. Obviously, with the Jimmy Garoppolo situation up in the air, There was bettors who pounced on Trey Lance at longer odds, obviously earlier in the summer.
I think he's down to 16-1 now.
Down to 16-1, obviously, and seeing quite a bit of interest. Garoppolo re-signed. Shanahan came out and said that he's going to be the backup. The 49ers are obviously going to start Trey Lance. Trey Lance is a really interesting one in the sense that, in my opinion, there's a ton of variance with him. He could come out and be the MVP, and obviously, run for a lot of yards, throw for a lot of yards, be very dynamic in both what he can do, with his legs and with his arms. And then obviously, I think there's also, given that variance, he could, really struggle in his first full year. So, bettors are backing him, and they think he's going to do really, really well this year in Shanahan's offense, and with, Ayuk and Kittle and Elijah Mitchell in the backfield and some of those weapons he has. So I would say those are the two most popular players that we've really seen in terms of the MVP pool. When you look at the Coach of the Year pool, obviously, we've seen some action on Dan Campbell. I think a lot of that has to do with the Hard Knock special that's going on, and everything that, bettors have seen on TV from the Lions this year, as they've been a very popular team in the future market.
Win total too, right? Over bets.
Ton of over bets. Very hard to write an under bet on the Lions right now. So I think Derek's particularly happy about his Detroit Lions and people thinking they're going to be good this year. But people are backing Dan Campbell in terms of the Coach of the Year, and also Nathaniel Hackett. And then when you look at the Rookie of the Year pool, Jalen Tolbert for the Cowboys, he looks like he's going to come in and be their number 2 wide receiver until Michael Gallup gets back up and fully healthy. Obviously, James Washington out for the first 4 to 6 weeks. So looks like Jalen Tolbert will really have an opportunity with Dak. That's an offense that wants to pass the ball. So certainly seen a ton of interest there. Romeo Dubes for the Green Bay Packers. That one's a little more concerning to me, just given the fact
he opened 100-1, I want to say.
Yeah, he opened over 100-1. Rodgers really likes to lean on those veterans, and when you look at Alan Lazard, obviously I don't know whether he's going to play Week 1, but it's been talked about that he's going to be the number 1 wide receiver in Green Bay. Sammy Watkins has had a really good camp, and then obviously Randall Cobb is the incumbent out of the slot that Rodgers really leans on. So between Christian Watson and Romeo Dubes, there's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense, and obviously when you have Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, and a great defense, you may be running the ball a lot. So like I said, Romeo Dubes has been very, very popular. He's down to double digits in terms of his odds for Rookie of the Year. Been very, very popular. And then really probably the biggest liability here at Circa Sports, and somebody who's been the most popular is George Pickens.
Mitch Trubisky.
I know Nicole will hope that Pickens has a really good year. Big body receiver. Somebody who had a fantastic training camp. Somebody who's really shined in the preseason. Looks like he's going to be the number 3 receiver with Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. If Trubisky's able to find some form and they're really able to move the ball, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out for George Pickens. But at the moment, he's, I believe, 7.5-1 here at Circa Sports. He's been the biggest mover in terms of the future pool when it comes to Rookie of the Year. And he's our current biggest liability as we head into the season.
I think we should change the podcast name from Beat the Closing Line to the Steelers Betting Podcast, because there are a lot of betting angles that we discussed on the Pittsburgh Steelers. But wrapping this up, Jeff, you look behind us. Yeah, Nicole's fine with that. Nicole wants the name to be changed. Stadium Swim right behind us. And obviously, from a sportsbook standpoint, you guys are changing the game, literally, with that. But long term, maybe in the next, everyone talks about their 5-year plan, right? What's Circa Sports' 5-year plan to continue to change the industry, the sportsbook industry, for the better?
Yeah, for us, obviously, we continue to expand to a number of different locations. We're certainly excited to come to your neck of the woods here in Q1 of 2023. We'll be in Illinois, both in a retail and a mobile perspective, which is really, really exciting. That'll be our 4th state and, our first retail presence outside of Las Vegas. So certainly excited about that. we continue to look at states that have favorable remote funding and remote registration, and I would anticipate, we'll be in, 2, 3, 4 more states here in the coming, 5 years, like you alluded to, working on our tech stack. We'd ultimately like to have, one uniform software and platform to provide the most consistent experience across all of these different jurisdictions. But for us, we're a sharp book model. And, what do I mean when I say that is, anybody who walks in the streets, anybody who walks in off the streets tonight can bet $100,000 on the NFL game, over the counter or on the app, and there's no approval process. And, for us, when we applied for our license, we wanted to take bets, and we really wanted to change, what we were doing, what was being seen in the industry. And, for us, we don't limit people. People can continue to win here at Circa Sports and show up the next day and, get the same limits that they got before, if not bigger. We're transparent, we're organic. I think, like I said, we're just trying to change, maybe some of the perception and some of the, negatives, that you see in the industry in terms of limiting, poor customer service and, I think just the general distaste, for the non-recreational bettor. So I would say those are some of the things we're focused on. Obviously, when you look over my shoulder, Stadium Swim is there on camera, for all the listeners to see. And, obviously you were just down there, with Derek Stevens, our CEO and owner, overseeing the world's largest 3-story sports book. So I think from a, retail perspective, we really try to run and provide the best viewing experiences when it comes to these sports books. Whereas, I think most places, stick a sports book in the corner of the casino and it's kind of an afterthought. For us, we built a sports book so big we had to build a casino around it. So I would say that's really our approach here over the coming years. And, we're excited just to continuing to grow the Circa Sports brand and obviously serve a lot of bettors, here in the country.
And as a Vegas native, I do have to second a lot of what you said. It is a very cool property. I have been to Stadium Swim multiple times. You guys have great restaurants and Legacy Club, and the sportsbook is awesome. So if you are in Las Vegas, make sure you are heading over to Circa. And of course, if you are there in the next handful of days, make sure you're signing up for the Circa Millions and the Circa Survivor contest. Those are still open. You can still register for those. And before I do my final sign off, Eli, do you have any last minute words you would like to add?
Go Steelers, apparently, right? Every better watching this podcast now is going to bet George Pickett's Rookie of the Year and some other Steelers futures Super Bowl as well, apparently.
Hey, I'm not mad at it. As always, it was amazing to have you guys watching. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us today. And of course, make sure that you are subscribing to the Beat the Closing Line podcast on Spotify and other podcast platforms, and subscribing to our YouTube channel and leaving a comment on this video for a chance to win that Amazon gift card. We'll see you guys next time.